Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing at the edge of the largest river on Earth, surrounded by the densest forest the world has ever known. The air is so thick with moisture that breathing feels like drinking. The sounds around you are unlike anything you have ever experienced. A living, breathing orchestra of creatures that have evolved over millions of years. In almost complete isolation from the outside world. Now open your eyes. Welcome to the Amazon. The Amazon rainforest stretches across 9 countries and covers more than 5.5 million square kilometers. To put that into perspective, it is nearly as large as the entire continent of Australia. It is so vast that if it were a country, it would be the 7th largest nation on Earth. This is not just a forest. This is a world within a world, a universe of life that scientists have been studying for centuries and still do not fully understand. The Amazon River itself is the lifeblood of this entire system. Born in the Andes Mountains of Peru, at an elevation of over 5,000 meters, it begins as a trickle of glacial meltwater high in the mountains before descending through the foothills and spreading across the Brazilian interior. By the time it reaches the Atlantic Ocean at the city of Belém in Brazil, it has traveled more than 6,400 kilometers, making it the longest river in the world by some measurements, and certainly the largest by the sheer volume of water it carries. Every single second, the Amazon discharges approximately 209,000 cubic meters of water into the Atlantic Ocean. That is more than the next 7 largest rivers on Earth combined. The river is so powerful that its freshwater plume extends more than 300 kilometers into the ocean. And sailors in the early days of exploration would drink fresh water from the sea before they even spotted land. The width of the Amazon during the dry season already staggers the imagination. In some sections, it stretches to 11 kilometers across. But when the wet season arrives between December and May, the river rises dramatically, sometimes by as much as 14 meters. Imagine a wall of water 14 meters high. The floodwaters pour into the surrounding forest, creating what is known as the várzea, seasonally flooded forests, that become underwater worlds for half of the year. Trees stand submerged up to 10 meters deep. Dolphins swim among the treetops. Fish feed on fruit and seeds that fall from the branches above them. It is one of the most extraordinary ecological phenomena on the planet, a place where the boundaries between river and forest dissolve completely. And speaking of dolphins, the Amazon is home to one of the most remarkable and mysterious creatures in the world. The Amazon River dolphin, known locally as the boto, is the largest freshwater dolphin on Earth. Unlike its ocean cousins, the boto is pink, not pale pink, not slightly pinkish, vivid, deep, startling pink. The males are the most intensely colored, and their color deepens as they age. Local indigenous communities have woven elaborate mythology around these creatures for thousands of years. According to legend, the pink dolphins are shapeshifters, encantados, and enchanted beings who transform into handsome young men at night and walk among humans. Many riverside communities will not eat the boto or harm it in any way, believing it to bring terrible misfortune to those who do. Whether you believe in the mythology or not, seeing a pink dolphin surface beside your boat in the middle of an ancient river deep in the Amazon is an experience that will shake something loose inside you. But the Amazon's wonders are not confined to its waters. Let us talk about the forest itself, because this is where the true heart of this place beats. The Amazon rainforest is home to approximately 10% of all species on Earth, 10%. On a planet with millions of identified species and millions more yet to be discovered, 10% is a number that simply refuses to fit inside the human brain. There are more species of fish in the Amazon River basin than in the entire Atlantic Ocean, there are more species of birds in a single national park in Ecuador than in the whole of North America. A single hectare of Amazon rainforest, an area roughly the size of 2.5 football fields, can contain more tree species than the entire United Kingdom. One of the most iconic of these trees is the Brazil nut tree, known scientifically as Bertholletia excelsa. It is one of the tallest trees in the Amazon canopy, reaching heights of up to 50 meters and living for over 500 years. What makes this tree truly extraordinary, however, is not its size but its relationships. The Brazil nut tree can only be pollinated by a specific group of orchid bees, and these bees can only reproduce if there are certain orchids growing in the forest nearby. The tree produces its famous nuts inside a thick woody pod the size of a cannonball, so heavy and hard that only one animal on Earth is capable of cracking it open. The agouti, a small rodent with teeth strong enough to gnaw through the shell. The agouti buries many of the nuts it finds, and the ones it forgets become the next generation of trees. Remove the orchids, the bees, or the agoutis from this equation, and the Brazil nut tree disappears. This single example tells you everything you need to know about how the Amazon works. Every creature, every plant, every insect is part of an intricate web of dependencies so complex that scientists are still mapping its connections. In the upper canopy of the Amazon, 60 to 70 meters above the forest floor, there is a world that most human beings will never see. Giant trees spread their crowns like umbrellas above the rest of the forest, catching the sunlight before it can reach the layers below. In this sunlit realm live creatures of extraordinary beauty. The harpy eagle, one of the most powerful birds of prey on Earth, nests in the canopy's tallest trees. With talons the size of a grizzly bear's claws and a wingspan that can reach 2 meters, the harpy eagle hunts monkeys and sloths with a silence and precision that still astonishes biologists who have studied it for decades. In the canopy also live hundreds of species of monkeys, from the tiny pygmy marmoset, the world's smallest primate, small enough to sit in the palm of your hand, to the howler monkey, whose call is one of the loudest sounds produced by any land animal. The howler's roar can be heard from 5 kilometers away through the forest, a deep resonating bellow that rolls through the trees at dawn and makes every hair on your body stand on end. Descend a few levels and you enter the understory, a dim, shadowed world of filtered light and extraordinary adaptations. Here lives the glass frog, a creature so alien in its appearance that it seems to belong more to science fiction than to nature. The glass frog has transparent skin on its underside, making its beating heart its digestive system, and its eggs visible to the naked eye. Scientists believe this transparency may serve as a form of camouflage, making the frog harder to spot against the green leaves it clings to. In the same dim understory, poison dart frogs move slowly across the forest floor, their skins blazing in colors of electric blue, vivid orange, and burning red. These colors are not an accident. They are a warning. Some species of poison dart frog carry enough toxin in their skin to kill 20 adult humans. Indigenous peoples of the Amazon have used this toxin for centuries, coating their blowgun darts with it to hunt game in the forest. The indigenous peoples of the Amazon have understood this relationship between forest and sky for thousands of years without the benefit of satellite imagery or atmospheric science. Over 250 indigenous groups live in the Amazon basin today, speaking more than 170 languages. Some communities, particularly in the most remote regions of Brazil and Peru, have never had contact with the outside world. They are among the last peoples on Earth living entirely outside the reach of modern civilization, and their existence is protected by law in several countries. The Amazon has been inhabited by humans for at least 10,000 years. And the indigenous peoples who live there today are the inheritors of knowledge systems of extraordinary depth and complexity. They know the medicinal properties of thousands of plants. They understand the behavior of animals and fish cycles that scientists have only recently begun to document. Their agricultural techniques developed over millennia helped shape the remarkable fertility of certain Amazonian soils that we now call terra preta, dark earth, which remains more productive than the surrounding rainforest soil thousands of years after it was first cultivated. One of the most remarkable human-made features of the Amazon, visible only from the air and discovered relatively recently, is a series of enormous geometric earthworks hidden beneath the forest canopy in Brazil's Acre State. These structures, circles, squares, and hexagons, carved into the earth on a massive scale, date back as far as 2,000 years. Their purpose remains debated among archaeologists, but their existence tells us something profound: that the Amazon was not the empty, pristine wilderness that early European explorers imagined. It was a civilized, managed, deeply inhabited landscape, shaped by human hands over thousands of years. The forest that exists today is not simply wild nature. It is, in part, the garden of a civilization. The meeting of the waters at Manaus is one of those natural spectacles that you must see to fully believe. Here, the dark tea-colored Rio Negro, one of the world's largest rivers, in its own right, flows alongside the sandy brown Amazon River for approximately 6 kilometers without mixing. The two rivers do not merge immediately because they differ in temperature, in speed, and in the density and chemistry of their waters. The line between them is sharp and clear, like a seam in the Earth's body. Standing on a boat at this confluence, watching the dark and the light waters flowing side by side, separated and distinct, you feel the physical reality of the forest's complexity in a way that no photograph or description can fully prepare you for. It is one of those rare experiences in the natural world where reality exceeds imagination. The Pantanal, which overlaps with the Amazon basin in parts of Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay, is the world's largest tropical wetland. And it hosts what is perhaps the most concentrated display of wildlife. Anywhere on Earth, this is the best place in the world to see the jaguar in the wild, the largest cat in the Americas and the third largest in the world. The jaguar is a creature of extraordinary physical power, capable of killing a caiman, a large South American crocodilian, with a single bite directly to the skull. Its spots are not simply spots, but rosettes. Complex patterns unique to each individual animal, like fingerprints. Unlike most other big cats, the jaguar is an excellent swimmer and is entirely comfortable in the water, actively hunting fish and caimans in the rivers. To see a jaguar emerge from the forest and slide silently into a river at dusk is to understand something ancient about this world that no amount of words can fully communicate. Back in the heart of the rainforest, the night shift begins at dusk. As the light fades from the canopy and the diurnal animals settle an entirely different cast of characters takes the stage. The Amazon at night is a revelation. Fungi glow with bioluminescence in soft blue and green light. Owls and nightjars replace the parrots and toucans in the canopy. Tapirs, the largest land mammal in South America and one of the most ancient surviving mammals on Earth, crash through the understory, following paths they have walked for thousands of years. Cayman eyes reflect the beam of a torch from the river, surface in dozens of orange points of fire, and everywhere unseen. The forest is alive with a biochemical conversation between plants, fungi, insects, and microorganisms that we have barely begun to translate. The Victoria amazonica, the giant water lily, would go among the most visually spectacular of all Amazonian species. Its leaves can grow to 3 meters in diameter, large enough and strong enough to support the weight of a small child. The underside of the leaf is a magnificent structural achievement, ribbed with a complex network of supports that inspired the design of the Crystal Palace in London in 1851. The lily flowers only at night, producing a large white bloom that generates its own heat, warming itself to approximately 10 degrees above ambient temperature to attract the scarab beetles that pollinate it. By the following night, the flower turns pink and traps the beetles inside it, coating them in pollen before releasing them to carry that pollen to the next bloom. This single plant manages temperature, timing, color change, and cooperative engineering with a precision that makes it one of nature's most extraordinary achievements. There are places in the Amazon where the forest opens to reveal something entirely unexpected. Great stone plateaus rising from the jungle like islands above a green sea. These are Tepuis, tabletop mountains that have been isolated from the surrounding land for hundreds of millions of years. The most famous, Mount Roraima, rises to nearly 3,000 meters and sits at the convergence of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana. Its flat summit is a world that evolved in complete isolation, home to species that exist nowhere else on Earth. The waterfalls that cascade from Tepuis edges are among the most spectacular on the planet. Angel Falls in Venezuela, the world's highest uninterrupted waterfall, drops 979 meters from the edge of Tepuis, so high that much of the water turns to mist before it reaches the bottom, creating a permanent cloud of vapor around the base of the cliff. There is a question that everyone who visits the Amazon eventually asks. Standing in the heat and the humidity, listening to the forest breathe around them, watching the river roll by in its endless brown immensity, they ask, what does it feel like? And the honest answer is that it feels more than anything else like humility. Not the polite intellectual humility we practice in conference rooms and classrooms, but a physical, cellular, visceral humility that comes from being in the presence of something so much older, so much larger, and so much more complex than yourself that your entire sense of scale simply rearranges itself around the reality in front of you. The Amazon has been building itself for 65 million years. It survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. It has outlasted ice ages, continental shifts, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. It is the most sophisticated life support system on the planet. And it is still, despite everything, here. The river is still moving. Right now, as you sit wherever you are, the Amazon River is carrying 209,000 cubic meters of water into the Atlantic Ocean every single second. Right now, a jaguar is moving through a forest, so dense the sun has never touched its floor. Right now, a pink dolphin is surfacing in water the color of the sky it reflects. Right now, the trees are exhaling moisture into the atmosphere and building the clouds that will become tomorrow's rain. The Amazon does not pause. It does not wait. It does not need an audience, but it deserves one. This channel is devoted to giving the world's most extraordinary places the audience they deserve. If you believe that, if you think beauty and wildness in the ancient, patient power of the natural world deserve to be seen and celebrated and protected, then subscribe. Join us every week. Like this film if it gave you something real. Share it if you think someone else needs what it gave you. The world is full of impossible places. We are going to take you to every single one. Subscribe. The next journey begins very soon.